Hey Waffle Crew, hope you're all doing great. I'm Mark, and today we're diving into more Reddit tales. If you're a fan of Reddit stories, why not give a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and maybe tap that notification bell. Let's jump into the first story. Big love to you all. Our first tale comes from Potentialo8645, titled, Am I the Jerk for Giving Lousy Christmas Presents and Wrecking My Marriage? This one's got several updates, including a fresh one recently. If you want to skip parts, check the timestamps in the description or along the timeline below. Thanks. It reads, Throw away for privacy. I'm a 31-year-old woman, married to my soon-to-be ex-husband, 33, since 2018. My in-laws never warmed to me and made it obvious. My soon-to-be ex claimed they just had a hard shell but would eventually embrace me. Wrong. They showed their true colors. Once, I joined them for dinner and brought a homemade pie, as I was taught to be a courteous guest. When I offered it to his mom in the kitchen as a thank you for the invite, she walked to the trash can, tossed it in, and handed me back the empty dish. When I told my husband, he confronted her and suddenly she was in tears, claiming she fumbled the dish and it fell to the floor. Naturally, it had to be discarded. My sister-in-law backed her story. My soon-to-be ex ran his own company, and they labeled me a gold digger behind his back. They demanded a prenup, which I didn't mind since I never imagined my marriage would fail, and I thought it might make them treat me better. Nope. His business tanked during COVID. He burned through his savings, and mine trying to save it. I refused to take on debt, so he shut it down. By 2022, he was battling deep depression after losing his company and struggling to find work. He proposed moving to his hometown to be near his family for support. Against my instincts, we did. He chose part-time work to focus on restarting his business, making me the primary earner. Like many spouses, I handled gift buying. Naive me thought thoughtful, pricey gifts would win them over. Our couple's gifts were clearly for him alone. Every holiday was with them, plus monthly family dinners. After a year, I noticed if I spoke, everyone went silent, so I stopped talking at their gatherings. In early December, they planned Christmas. Days later, my soon-to-be ex said his family didn't want me at Christmas Eve dinner or Christmas lunch, claiming I spoiled their vibe. I said, fine, we'll do our own thing. He looked away and mumbled he was still going. I was furious and heartbroken. That's when I knew my marriage was done. I returned their expensive gifts and bought cheap replacements. A tacky pair of novelty socks for my father-in-law, a generic shampoo bottle for my mother-in-law, and the worst-smelling perfume from a discount store for my sister-in-law. The priciest was a massive rawhide bone for my brother-in-law's chihuahua, too big for it to chew. I saved $600, which went toward a deposit for a new apartment. My husband came back from Christmas lunch saying I humiliated him in front of his family. I asked why I'd buy nice gifts for people who clearly despised me and excluded me. I served divorce papers last week. Thanks to the prenup they insisted on, expecting him to be a millionaire, he gets none of my savings. We kept separate accounts, and he's not entitled to alimony. He can't afford rent or car insurance, not my issue anymore. Some friends and family applaud my bold exit. Others say I was too spiteful, which isn't my usual style. So, am I the jerk? OP's comments. After moving into my new place, I adopted an older cat from a shelter. He was allergic, so I couldn't have one while we lived together. We're two old souls living our best lives after being cast aside. OP adds he worked 12 hours a week at Walmart to work on his non-existent business relaunch. I earned just over 6 figures and can't believe I didn't see I was their cash machine sooner. OP also notes, my lawyer chuckled at how the prenup designed to protect him now shields me. It mandates separate accounts, full retention of personal savings, and no alimony. 9 days later, OP posted an update. Thanks for the support on my last post. Here's a quick update. To those wondering how $600 from returned gifts covered my apartment deposit, it didn't entirely. I used savings, but the $600 helped. My soon-to-be ex didn't contact me after I left until he got the divorce papers, and my lawyer enforced the prenup. Then came sweet voicemails and texts from him and his family, begging me to return, which turned nasty when I didn't budge. My lawyer advised not blocking them to collect evidence of harassment if needed. Let them dig their own grave. Last night, my soon-to-be ex called. I stupidly answered, thinking it was an emergency. Before I could say much, he said, "Rent's a week late." I replied, "Odd, I paid my landlord 6 days ago." He sighed dramatically and said, "No, the rent here." I reminded him I don't live there and owe nothing. His parents texted, threatening to sue me for the lease's remainder. I'm not worried about an eviction on my record. The apartment's in their names. When we moved to his hometown, they leased it for us to ensure a quick move. They've renewed it yearly, we paid them, and they paid the landlord, who doesn't know us. Red flag, I know. I'm glad I had weeks to plan my exit, or they'd likely have evicted me instantly. Divorce will be rough with this immature man and his unhinged parents. Any advice from those who've been through it? OP's comments. My lawyer says they have no case. I never signed a lease, and utilities are in their names since they feared too many names tied to the apartment. They're liable for unpaid bills. Their choice, their mess. Find out what you mess with. 19 days later, OP updated again. If this isn't the right subreddit for updates, please point me to a better one. Sorry if I'm bothering anyone, but some requested more. Recaps first. 2 posts. To those who suggested my in-laws charged us more than the lease amount, you nailed it. We wouldn't have known if they weren't so arrogant and set on hurting me. They had a cousin, a lawyer, send a letter demanding I pay the full lease remainder or face a lawsuit. Obvious intimidation tactic. My lawyer requested their lawyer provide the lease, which I'd never seen, and our sublease agreement, which doesn't exist. They sent the lease claiming the sublease was verbal. Not only is subleasing banned, but my in-laws charged us an extra $200 monthly. We informed the landlord I lived there with my soon-to-be ex, and the leaseholders lived elsewhere, providing my driver's license, bank, and credit card statements with the address. They got a 30-day eviction notice yesterday. I know because my mother-in-law left a voicemail accusing me of evicting my soon-to-be ex and saying she now carries a baseball bat in her car, watching for me. LOL. My divorce lawyer's expertise is family law, so she referred me to a real estate lawyer. We met today to strategize. I'm suing my in-laws for all rent I can prove I paid during my time there. Since the sublease was illegal, they have no legal standing to sue me. My lawyer's unsure how a judge will rule, and it exceeds my state's civil compensation limit, but he thinks it'll scare them into settling for the extra $200 per payment. I think that's fair since I lived there, and I don't want them claiming I'm profiting from the divorce. I'm an adult. Adults pay rent. On the soon-to-be ex front, no news. We'll likely need family court for a separation order since he won't agree to my lawyer's financial terms. My state requires a 1-year separation before finalizing a divorce, so it's a long road. Some asked why he did this or if he explained himself. We haven't spoken since he was served. I don't know if he stopped loving me but kept me for money, if his true self emerged, or if his family manipulated him. I don't care. I don't need answers. I need them out of my life. His broken promises in counseling, letting his family mistreat me, and betraying me at Christmas are enough closure. My focus is my happiness. OP's comments. I'm saving all voicemails, texts, and emails. Another. I feel like a new person, like someone recovering from illness and finally breathing fresh air. On a restraining order. Definitely. She'll regret it since she works for the school district, and a restraining order could end her teaching career. On the prenup, it favored him because his business was supposed to boom. COVID killed it, and now I'm the one with money, so the prenup protects me. A commenter suggested suing for savings I put into his business, as it was a premarital asset exempt from the prenup. OP replied, never considered this. I'll discuss it with my lawyer. OP added, when we said we were moving to his hometown, his parents leased the apartment to speed things up and control us. They kept utilities in their names to avoid too many names on the place. 3.5 months later, OP shared the latest update. Hi, everyone. I posted here months ago and your support was amazing. Thank you. Here's a positive update. Summarizes prior events. My ex's family treated me terribly for years. Foolishly, I thought trying harder would help. They banned me from Christmas for ruining their mood. My ex chose to celebrate with them, leaving me alone. I swapped their costly, thoughtful gifts for cheap, petty ones as a final jab, moved out, and filed for divorce.
My ex couldn't afford the apartment alone, leased by his parents, who demanded I pay the remaining rent or face a lawsuit. My lawyer and I countered, discovering the sublease was illegal, and they pocketed an extra $200 monthly, mostly from me since my ex barely contributed. We alerted the landlord and my ex got an eviction notice. A few weeks ago, I had my first and only mediation with my in-laws about the excess rent. They claimed the $200 was for managing the apartment. Bold move. They couldn't justify it beyond saying they talked to their son about the place, essentially charging us for family chats. Since the sublease was verbal, my lawyer asked when I agreed to it. I didn't. My ex handled those talks before we moved. They couldn't recall but said my moving in implied agreement. My lawyer said any verbal deal was with their son, and without clear terms, it's unenforceable. Plus, they couldn't sublease, so their case would be tossed in seconds. He said we'd pursue the lawsuit unless they settled for $6,200, giving them time to consult their lawyer. Within an hour, their lawyer agreed to $5,400, accounting for my ex's small rent contributions. We accepted. My divorce lawyer sent a cease and desist letter about their harassment, warning of a restraining order with ample evidence if it continued. Many asked why I hadn't filed one. I'd rather avoid escalation unless necessary. My mother-in-law's job could be at risk, and she'd likely retaliate harder. Thankfully, the letter worked, and the harassment stopped. Mutual friends say my ex was on dating apps weeks after I left, but he can't get past first dates. Apparently, women aren't keen on a 33-year-old jobless entrepreneur living off his parents, chasing a fantasy business. All contact with him goes through my lawyer, except 2 incidents. Weeks ago, he left a 3 a.m. drunken voicemail begging to reconcile. Oof. He called the next day to apologize. This is likely my final update. I'm just waiting for the divorce to finalize. A huge burden's lifted, and I'm so relieved. I'm thrilled OP recovered some money, even if not the full amount. I get why they settled. Avoiding escalation makes sense, especially with the mother-in-law's job at stake. If she's jobless, she might become an even bigger nuisance. The ex is clearly struggling. 3 a.m. drunk calls. Yikes. What do you all think of this mess? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Now on to another story. This one's a fresh Am I the Jerk? Post from Dehydrated Dolphin. Am I the jerk for telling my best friend his wife can't come to my wedding? I'm a 29-year-old guy. A few years ago, I was best man at my best friend Josh's 29 wedding, but I wasn't allowed a +1 despite dating Stacy, 28. When Josh and his now wife Amber, 30, got engaged, I was single and told I could bring a date. Months later, I told Josh I was dating Stacy and planned to bring her. For context, I've known Stacy for 8 years. We dated briefly in college. I met her through Josh, as she was friends with his long-term ex. When Josh and his ex split, the ex forced Stacy to choose between dating me or staying friends. The ex was toxic, and Stacy chose me. Years later, Stacy and the ex have no contact. Stacy and I broke up in college because she transferred schools, and neither of us wanted long distance. When Amber learned I was dating Stacy, she told Josh I couldn't bring her because of her past friendship with Josh's ex. Josh relayed this, saying Amber had the final say and didn't want Stacy there. Worse, he said I could have a +1, just not Stacy. I wasn't bringing anyone else. Josh admitted he disagreed with Amber but didn't want to argue. I didn't tell Stacy right away. She knew about the wedding and occasionally asked if she was invited. I said I wasn't sure about a +1, hoping time, double dates, and hangouts would soften Amber. It didn't. Amber never budged. The wedding fell on Stacy's birthday, and I went alone as best man, reluctantly. I later told Stacy everything, which upset her. She understood why I attended but hasn't forgiven Amber. Now Stacy and I are engaged. The tables have turned. Stacy's fine with Josh attending but wants Amber nowhere near our wedding. Both our families know Amber excluded Stacy from Josh's wedding and why, leaving a bad taste. Neither family wants Amber at our wedding. I hate drama and wish we all got along, especially since Josh and I have been friends since childhood. But I'm backing Stacy. Amber's not invited. Am I the jerk? Edit. To clarify. When I said we broke up, I meant our brief college relationship. I still celebrated Stacy's birthday despite attending the wedding. My take. What goes around comes around. Simple as that. M. Purdy comments. Not the jerk. If Amber had the final call on their wedding guest list, it's only fair Stacy gets the same for yours. Plus, if Amber dislikes Stacy over her old friendship with Josh's ex, she probably wouldn't want to come anyway. Word says, I wouldn't invite her either. But Amber will likely forbid Josh from attending, and since he caved before, he'll probably cave again to avoid a fight. EJC says, everyone's at fault. This is so petty. You shouldn't be friends anymore. Don't invite Josh without Amber. Just exclude them both if it's such a big deal. Another comment. Everyone's wrong. You're all acting like teenagers, not near 30 adults. If you don't want someone at your wedding, don't invite them. It's simple. No need for drama. Amber didn't want Stacy. That was her call. Now Stacy can exclude Amber. At their wedding, it wasn't about Stacy. Amber barely knew you as a couple. Your wedding's about you and Stacy, not Amber. She'll survive. What do you think? Would you handle it differently, or is this just petty? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.